Welcome to Uniquely Female Troubles. My name is Leslie Wells. Today I want to tell you a story from my life. It's actually an account of the day I told my ex I was leaving him, but it kind of turned into a bit of a comedy of errors. You'll see what I mean. So, the day I decided to leave him, and about 2 days later was the day I was going to do it. And so I spent the entire day packing, not packing so much, just putting a lot of stuff in my car and driving it over to my mom and dad's house. They lived about 15 minutes away from where we lived. And I was going to move in with my mom and dad. And one very big blessing is they had 2 guest bedrooms, so I didn't have to share a room with my daughter, although I would have. We would have made it work. But we didn't have to, so I had some privacy, which I really needed after all the chaos that I'd been living in and the upheaval of the divorce and, the separation and all that stuff. One thing I did was our tax refund check had come in. He signed it and I deposited that in the bank. And, I did all the errands. He worked from like 8 to 5, so I did all the errands, which is reasonable. I'm not complaining about that. And so I went to the bank. I took half of that out and I deposited half of it. And then I took half of the money out of our checking account, which is, I don't even know if we had a savings. Maybe we did. But anyway, I took half the money we had out of the account. And then I spent the rest of the day taking stuff to my mom and dad's. And then it was time for me to meet him at Panera's. And one thing, you should never tell somebody you're leaving them in a private place. It should all be very well planned and orchestrated. You don't want to do that. It's dangerous. Even somebody that you don't think it would be dangerous, it could be dangerous. And I didn't really think he was going to attack me physically, but I thought he was going to like yell at me and scream at me and cuss at me and all that stuff and try to like manipulate me and blackmail me and make me not leave. Well, so we went to a place called Panera Bread. Well, I went there. And the night before, I'd asked him to meet me at Panera Bread the next day when he got off work. And I felt really sad. I felt really bad because I could see in his eyes, he thought I was doing that because I wanted to go on a date with him because we had not been getting along good at all. And we hadn't like gone out together or anything like that. So he thought that, and that made me feel really crummy. I didn't feel bad for leaving him. I just felt kind of bad. I felt like I got his hopes up, and then I knew I was gonna tell him I was leaving him, but that's what had to happen. So I got there on time, a little bit early, and he was late, which basically happened pretty much everywhere we went. Whether he made me late, and I hate to be late everywhere we went if I went with him, and he was always late. I was always waiting on him. I always had a book with me because I knew I was going to spend a lot of time waiting on him for one reason or another, and a lot of it was because he was always late. So he was late, and I'm looking like, when is he going to get here? When is he going to get here? Then he calls me. He says he got pulled over by a cop. I'm like, okay. And then he said, but he didn't get a ticket. He got a warning, so that was good. And he would be there soon. I'm like, okay, see you when you get here. Hurry up. I was very nervous. I didn't know how it was going to go. So then he calls me again. And he's like, are you at Panera's? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I don't see the car. I'm like, the car is here. Just come inside, please. So, and he was right about the car because it was this really big plaza. And I had parked my car all the way on the far end of the plaza because it was full of stuff. My last load of stuff I was taking from the house to my parents' house. So I didn't want him to see that and start questioning me about why I had all that stuff in my car. So the car wasn't in the parking lot of Panera's. It was down on the far end in front of a grocery store. So I was like, just come inside. The car's here. I'm here. Come inside. So he came in, and so I told him I needed to talk to him about something really important. And so we put in our orders. I don't even think I got any food. I think I just got a soda. And there was this one little sort of alcove that was off away from everybody that had a table that would seat 4, and then right by it, a table that would seat 2. It was kind of separate from the rest of the table. So I'm like, let's sit over there so we can have some privacy. So we're sitting there, and I don't know if I told him we were starting to talk, and I right when we started to talk, these two ladies plopped down in the other table that was like 6 inches from us. And I look around the restaurant, and there's so many empty tables. Like, why? Well, anyway, so I looked at them and I said, we're trying to have a private conversation. And they're like, oh, we're sorry. And they had a laptop with them. They're like, this is the only place we can plug in our laptop. Sorry. And then they opened the laptop and just started to talk. And they weren't leaving. So I told them, let's move. So we moved to a different part of the restaurant. And I started to talk to him. And all of a sudden, somebody set up and they started playing live music. I have been to Panera's many times. They have never had live music. And they never had live music after that anytime I was there. But that one time, when I needed to tell him this really important stuff, they had live music. So I was like, oh, we couldn't even hear each other talk. So I'm like, let's go outside. So we moved for the third time. No, the second time. Okay, we moved the second time, yeah. And we go outside and we're starting to talk. Right when we start to talk, this lady who works there comes up to the table and she's like, don't you guys want to come inside and enjoy the live music? And I was like, thank you, but we're trying to have an important conversation. And she's like, oh, okay. So finally, we started talking. It was so ridiculous. It's like something that could be in a comedy movie, practically. So, we talked, and, he said his usual junk. And I'm not even going to go into it. I think I talked about it in another video, about him saying, like, that I will never be able to make it in the real world. And that he's going to find somebody to love him, but I'm never going to find anybody to love me. And he did. 3 months after we split up, he was with me from the time he was 17 till the time he was 43. 3 months later, he was dating his lady that he ended up marrying. So he definitely was not interested in having a long gap where he was alone. And I get that because he was used to being taken care of. He wasn't used to, I don't mean financially, he supported us, but I mean, I did everything for him. And I don't know if his second wife does or not. I hope she doesn't, because sometimes anyway, that's another subject. But anyway, so we're talking, and, and I tell him about what I did with the money. He accused me of stealing his money. But, it was just so typical. But then we had to start talking about our daughter, and that was really the important part. And so we decided he would come over the next day, and we would talk to our daughter together, come to my mom and dad's house. So that did happen, and that was very hard. It was very sad. And she started crying, and I just felt awful. But I knew it was best for her too. And I was right, because she had an eating disorder that had they couldn't find any physical cause for it. It was because of the stress she was living in and the toxic home environment. And then she started getting better. It took a long time. It was very gradual, but she did start improving after we moved into my mom and dad's house. She started gaining weight. So anyway, so finally I was ready to go. And so I sit up. I'm like, okay, well, I'll see you tomorrow. And he's like, oh, wait, I have something important to ask you about. I'm like, yeah. And I sat back down. He's like, how do you operate the washer? I wish so bad that I would have said, I think you can figure it out, Mr. Self-Sufficient. But I didn't. I told him, I gave him detailed instructions, how to use the washer, how to use the dryer. He had never used those things before. That's how much I did for him. It was so ridiculous. So anyway, yeah. And then I'm leaving the restaurant, and I have to walk clear to the other end of the plaza. And I was really scared he might be following me, but he didn't, which was a huge relief. And then I got in my car, I locked the door, but he wasn't there. I think he might have been just as done with the marriage as I was. But anyway, he wasn't there, and I thought about all the stuff that I did that I hated doing that I would no longer have to do. And I made a promise to myself that I would never have a certain male body part inside my mouth ever again. And I haven't. And I'm really happy about that. And if I have dated and I've been with people, but I'm like, I don't do that. And they can like it or lump it, because if they insist on that, then they're not going to be in my life. So I'm never going to be with somebody that's going to make me hurt myself to please them and for their pleasure. So I just want to tell you that little story. It's absolutely ridiculous how many things, all those phone calls, and then having to move from table to table to table, and it was just almost funny. The next day wasn't funny at all when we told our daughter. But it was the best thing for all of us. And yeah, I just want to tell you that little story. And since my friend on Old Soul Like Mine Poetry channel asked me to show her some of my art, I'm going to show you another page in my art journal. This is basically made the same way as the other one. I don't know how well you can see it. It says, create art, create yourself. And so that's something. So that's acrylic paint and stamping and stuff like that, and stencils. So you have a great evening or great day, and please like the video if you do like it, and please subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. Have you been in a similar situation where you have to tell somebody about something really serious and scary to tell them? If you do, I would love to hear about it. I'd love to turn this from a monologue to a dialogue. So thank you very much, and have a great day.